I think you know where I'm going with this. It's obviously going to be Steve Gleason.
Look out! Right through! A kick block by Steve Gleason. It is scooped and scored by Curtis Duluth. Touchdown, New Orleans!
Listen to this crowd.
Gleason, who was a big special teams presence the last few years, came up with the block.
And for those people who look to the New Orleans Saints as something that will...
2006, that block punt that essentially was the starting point for that new, I'm not going to call it a dynasty, but the new era of Saints football, and just everything that it encapsulated when it came to Hurricane Katrina, and everything just kind of came to a head there in that moment. You keep looking back, and I probably rewatch it twice a year, I would say, and every time I still can't believe it happened. Like, that it's so rare that you actually get a story where you're like, oh, that is unbelievable. Like, I know oftentimes we use that phrase like storybook ending or storybook this, or they should make a movie out of that. I think we use that term way too liberally. But like, that was an example, like, oh my God, like, that's actually a story. Like, you can't write that. It's insane. And the way it was captured, like that whole game, I mean, partially it's one of the first memories of watching football, like, legitimately live. Like, there's definitely more memories than that, but I think the way the game was covered, I think ESPN did a really good job. I think that was kind of in the heyday of Monday Night Football, where it still kind of felt like it was this thing, and having Tirico on the call, like, everything about it was just really good, and they kind of encapsulated the emotion.
Both go negative, both go NFC Championship. Which one will it be? It's a Brett Favre. There's two options. Which one sticks more in my head?
Interception or Al Harris?
No, they're both interceptions. Oh, which one is it? What interception is it?
The NFC Championship.
It's against Giants.
Yeah. Favre back to pass, takes a deep drop, steps up, looking to his right, and the pass intercepted by the Giants at the 40-yard line.
It's against the Giants because I was younger and it hurt way more, and it was definitely the worst of the throws. At least the one across the body and the Vikings was like, I mean, it's there. Like, it just got picked, and like, he's old, and I'm also not like a Vikings fan, but to me that was like crushing. Like, I think it was the time I grew up from football, when you live and die, and like oh no, like, the entire week is going to be brutal after this. And I was like, at that point I was like, I realized, like, oh man, it's kind of ridiculous to act that certain way, to get so emotional into something you can't control. And I totally understand it, but there is a limit, and it just helped me now. It just, like, changes the way you start to look at it. But when you're younger, you don't really have that type of experience. And I think it all sticks in my mind because I'm sitting there, I'm, on my bed going, oh, now the Patriots are going to win. Right? Sometimes you don't get what you want, and it leads to something that is more memorable, not just for you, but hey, maybe everyone had a better moment. And yeah, sure, maybe the Packers would beat the Patriots, but I highly doubt it. So that's the reason why that one sticks to me. So number 3 for you.
Number 3. I don't know if I want to leave one on the table for you.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna leave the obvious one on the table. You can take it.
Right.
I'm gonna go a little bit off. I'm going to say kind of, and more look at it like a group of games. It's kind of like that Pittsburgh and Baltimore rivalry of like 2009 to about 2011.
Joe Flacco goes right with him. There's no power behind this.
Look at Pogomalo over the top.
Oh my gosh, he's got him. No surge. Boy, you got McLean,
Coach Harbaugh.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, there's no better games to play in, for your legacy, for the reason you play the game. To come out and have that type of respect, that when people across the world, when they hear Baltimore and Pittsburgh, everybody's going to have a front row seat for that. because they know exactly what you're going to get for that. And that's a level of respect, that you carry in the league, and the players and people outside the league, really care for you because of playing in those rivalries. I was young enough that I was able to see the San Francisco and Dallas rivalries when they was really going at it. And now we've created that rivalry, for now 16 years. So to actually be a part of that is very something special. You almost
where those games were
I like
must
that.
watch kind of relics now, because even at the time offenses were exploding, but you would sit down and be like, oh, this is actually a defensive game. And not only was it, oftentimes you'll watch a defensive game and it'll be boring. It will be boring to the average fan, and even to me. I love watching football, but even still, do I love watching a game when it's 6-3? No, I don't. No. But it was actually really interesting, because you had so many stars on defense, and especially they were in the defensive front, so you get to see them on TV all the time. And then obviously you'd have Troy Polamalu make a play, or Ed Reed, and Ray Lewis. Oh my! And these teams is just absolute slugfest. The only, at the time, I would say true NFL rivalry, when you look at the two games compared to college football, you have obviously insane rivalries in college football, but it gets to the pros. Are there rivalries? Oh yeah, sure. The Packers and Bears don't like each other. It's yeah, I mean, kind of. Who knows, right? You can't really get into a major rivalry because the guy that you're going against might be on your team next year, and you're as much as you want to have a rivalry and win the game, you're getting paid. So it changes it a little bit. But that kind of felt for me, watching the NFL, oh my God, these teams are fierce. They're going after each other. They're leaving on the field. It was fun. It was one of the only times where I legitimately enjoyed watching defensive football, and being okay, I can just sit down, watch Sunday Night Football, and just watch this whole thing and not be bored. So I thought that was just an interest.
I think you nailed that whole thing, where it was I think that was really the last real actual rivalry, I guess. And even then it was rivalries were already dead at the time, but that was probably the last true couple games where you're the NFL cannot have this anymore. And it was probably the last game where people were laying their lives on the line. There was a couple hits, and what was that? Was it Dwayne Bowe? No, it wasn't Dwayne Bowe. But there was a few crackbacks and huge hits that were this is scary. And I think it was probably the last. That does stick in my head. I really like that. And for me, last one's going to be 28-3. The Patriots coming back, just because of how,
Big play. Now they'll throw. Pass is caught. That's White. Touchdown. Brady. End zone touchdown. Amendola. Here's Edelman broken up, and the pass is no sign yet. Handoff. Touchdown, James White. That's Amendola. Flag is down. Amendola's in. Toss to White. He's in. Patriots win the Super Bowl.
It does so many things. It sticks in your head. It's gonna maybe so many things happen in the second half that you don't even remember everything. But it was everything you could ask for a game to end. That is the most important game of the year. It's impossible for it not to stick in your head and be a fundamental. It also really does tell you you're never down and out. But my thing with saying, oh, you can never give up, and you go, oh, look, it's time for us to learn a lesson here. It's never give up if you're the greatest coach of all time and the greatest quarterback of all time, because don't worry, you'll find a way. And even sometimes we don't make it.